Hello again to another Matura Express stream. Today's topic is all about environment and pollution. Stay tuned. So, as I've already mentioned in the introduction to the stream, today's topic is environment and pollution, a topic that should concern every one of you. We jump right into the overview of today's stream. And we're gonna start with the overview of the topic environment pollution. Then we're gonna talk about different forms of energy resources, followed by the pros and cons of fossil fuels, and a short explanation what fossil fuels are. Then we're gonna talk about forms of alternative energy, then the pros and cons of alternative energies. Nuclear power is also a topic today, and as always, I'm gonna show you a demonstration exam and make an analysis out of it. But I'm just gonna show you the exam so that you have an idea how an exam on this topic could look like. And I've prepared the overview of the topic environment with your book Berufsreifeprüfung in English so that you have an accurate overview of this topic. And of course, I'm not gonna do all vocabulary or stuff. I'm just gonna show you the things I've just mentioned in the introduction, but of course you should know what this topic is all about, and in this case you should know the following things that inhabit those topics, or those two topics. Basically, they're out of the book, mainly out of the book. There's some in the other books, but you know all about it, of course, since you should know what you should be able to know, or what you should know in order to successfully complete the oral exams. So, running our planet is subdivided into two topics: environmental threat and resource exploitation. Very interesting topics, and I think those topics are very easy to research. You find a million of articles, I think, or videos that concern or that treat those topics, even documentaries, short video clips or something like this. So it's very easy to do research with those topics. And of course, environmental threats include every threat you could imagine, but of course in this case it's all about the acid rain, destruction of the rainforest, the ozone hole, and waste, and resource exploitation, of course. All about the drilling for oil, mining, water shortage, logging, and overfishing. And there's also another topic, and this topic is all about climate and energy. Of course, there is the topic global warming. You should be able to give a definition of global warming, what its causes are, impacts, and how to prevent global warming, or better, how we can minimize global warming nowadays. And of course, energy consumption concerns everything from energy use to carbon footprint to how to best save energy or reduce the amount of, for example, electricity or electricity that you use or waste, basically. And of course, the alternative forms of energy and nuclear power. Those are the basic things, topics, not things that you should know. If you do so, you won't have a problem with successfully passing the oral exam. Okay, so there are, of course, different forms of energy resources. You all know them. There are renewable and non-renewable sources. It is very easy, of course, to remember which is which. So, non-renewable resources are non-renewable resources are natural resources that are finite and will not replenish. So if we have used up all the resources such as oil or gas, we can't get any more oil or gas. So until we wait, I think 300 million years, then we're gonna have some oil and gas. And of course, with nuclear fuels, not only fossil fuels such as natural gas, coal and oil, we also have uranium ore that can also is also finite, so it doesn't replenish. If it is used up, it won't replenish itself. So, and of course, renewable resources are in this case resources that replenish within a short amount of time. I've written out this phrase within a short amount of time because it is, if you want to differentiate, it's better to do so because, of course, non-renewable energy, it doesn't matter. It's just something that you should remember. So, and for example, renewable resources are solar power, wind power, hydropower, tidal power, geothermal energy, and biomass. I think, we're gonna treat it. I can explain it to you. Of course, solar power, there are two different things, photovoltaic and solar. Wind power, you all know about it, I think. Hydropower, if you have a dam or like if you live in Tyrol, it's very easy to know about hydropower. Tidal power, we don't have tidal power in Austria or in Tyrol. In Austria, not really, I think. Maybe a little bit, but normally it's used on coasts, so where there are really strong currents and a strong tide. So geothermal energy is basically used with pumps that pump heated water out of, I don't know how much meter, into the earth. So they use basically the earth's own heat to produce electricity with turbines, and then the turbines are connected to generators so that they can generate electricity. And biomass is if something decomposes, then it creates gases and so on. It can of course run turbines too. Okay, so pros and cons of fossil fuels. What are the pros? Are there pros? Yes, there are pros. Fossil fuels have a high energy density. That means in comparison to non-fossil fuels, fossil fuels can generate energy out of a certain amount of, maybe if we speak about kilogram or something, I don't know how they measure it, but of course if you have certain amount of fossil fuels, certain amount of non-fossil fuels, you can create more energy with fossil fuels. Another thing is its variety of applications. You can use fossil fuels for a lot of things, for plastic containers, for even medicine, for of course to power cars, trains, ships, planes, anything else, almost anything you can imagine. And of course they are cheap to produce, but since we have used up a big amount of fossil fuels, they're actually becoming a bit more expensive to produce, since they have to drill deeper. The cons are they are pretty good emitters. So speaking of carbon dioxide, they're finite, as we've already discussed, and they have basically there is a gradual depletion of it, so it's not really good. And the production causes environmental and health issues. And what else? Fossil fuels are also concerned with the location, of course. There are several countries that have a bigger amount of oil or gas that can be used for the international use of petrol or something, and therefore it's also a political thing. But this is, of course, a thing you can look up on the internet. There are a lot of things about it, and of course there are a lot of aspects that connect with it. And as you might know, there have been wars, or there have been wars all about fossil fuels, basically. However, now we're gonna have a look at alternative energies. And alternative energy, we already spoke about it. We have the solar power, which is mostly used with photovoltaic things nowadays in Tyrol. Even companies use it to create their own electricity, so to be a bit self-sufficient. And wind power, of course, hydropower, we all talked about it. These are great ways to not use fossil fuels. They're great things you can do with them. So in future, which is also important with your exam, think about the future of energy usage, for example, and write it down and think about it, because it's a very common question in exams, I think, how the future of energy consumption, of course, and energy usage will look like. And of course there will be a hopefully some people start to think differently and start to use more alternative energy resources. Yeah. Now it worked. Yeah. So of course there are pros and cons with everything we have, also with alternative energies. The pros are they are very environmentally friendly. So speaking, for example, of the low carbon emission, so low carbon dioxide emission, they're endless and you're basically independent from other countries. And if you want to be a self-sufficient household, you can do so. Of course, it's still a bit difficult, but it could be possible. Basically, it could be possible, yeah. And of course, there are cons, and you're really dependent on nature, of course. If you're in a region where there's not that much sun, or if you don't have that much wind or anything else, it can be a problem. But of course, if you live in an area or in a country like Iceland, if you're able to use geothermal power as the Icelandic people do, it's a really, really, really beneficial energy resource. And then, of course, there are often alternative energy are often connected with high initial costs, and yeah, which is also the same as expensive. I forgot to, yeah, it's expensive, so high initial cost, yeah. But of course we have to think about it. What is better, to use fossil fuels and create a lot of carbon dioxide, or to invest more and have a more greener alternative or more environmentally friendly alternative? So think about it. And if you have questions or comments or worries or anything else, write it in the comments below. We're gonna answer it as fast as possible and as best
pretty quick.
as best as we can. And then we're gonna move on to nuclear power.
Yes.
A very highly debated source of energy, and it's a very useful for some things, very efficient basically, but of course there are, in my opinion, more cons than pros. But I've written down some pros, of course, that you have an input on it and can work with this energy resource. So basically, nuclear power is basically gained at first. Of course, there is the mining from the uranium ore. Then uranium is splitted in a reactor. This reactor serves as heat source, and then water is turned to steam, which drives a turbine, and the turbine drives a generator. So again, we create electricity, and the pros of nuclear power, of course, are that it's very clean. So there are not that much carbon dioxide emissions, and it's efficient. But we have, of course, a lot of cons, especially when we speak about the toxic waste that is produced once the uranium stabs, how are they called? Rods, uranium rods, I think, yeah, are used up. And then we have to put the waste somewhere, so that's not really good. Then of course the mining of the uranium is often not that healthy working conditions. And of course, as the history tells us, or the past, the disasters that are linked with power plants, especially with power plants that are not sufficiently maintained. You can look up a lot of articles with nuclear power plants, disaster, and so on the internet, and you should, because it's very easy to find anything about this topic. So if you don't know anything about this topic, please Google it or YouTube it. And yeah, it's very, very, very easy to find some interesting articles that you can read, of course, and then you can read, and then of course make notes for your preparation time, so then you can pass the oral exam successfully. And of course we have the demonstration exam analysis. Basically, I'm gonna show you a demonstration exam here. Here it is. Again, which direction? Here? Yeah, that's good. So I should look, yeah, it doesn't matter. In this case, it's about the danger of resource exploitation. The introduction is, as always, you will be asked some questions about your career, future plans, etc. This is now 4 minutes, the monologue. And in this case, our energy resources is the first task. And you are an environmentalist who works for Greenpeace. You have been asked to hold a seminar for business owners and the local politicians, which are the examiners, about renewable energy resources, and you should give a brief introductory talk to your colleagues about the different energy sources, and you're supposed to talk about the different types of non-renewable energy sources use today, the negatives of non-renewable energy sources, and forms of alternatives energy and their advantages. So the things we've already talked about, or I talked about in this stream. And after you completed the monologue, it's time for the dialogue, role play. So in this case, it's about the danger of resource exploitation, as we've already seen in the headline of this exam. So after your talk, you open up the discussion, the discussion up to questions about danger of resource exploitation from your audience. Be sure to use the information from the attached text. These are 6 of the most exploited resources on Earth, as well as your own ideas during the conversation. So, as the instructions already say, please use the article you've been given during the preparation time. It's very helpful if you have problems how to best make notes or take notes. Be sure to check out the streams we've done on note-taking skills, just to be sure that you also know how to read the article in an efficient way. Be sure to check out our streams on the reading skills, especially designed for you, so that you can skim or scan through an article like a pro. And of course, after the dialogue, there is the follow-up discussion, which is always different, of course. Yes, that's the exam. That's how our exam could look like. The exam is always structured the same. So this is the exam structure. If you have any worries, of course, you can comment, but you can also watch one of our demonstration exams, demonstration exam streams. Very helpful, I think. And yeah, that's all about the topic environment and pollution. And that's it for today. And I wish you a very pleasant evening. And we're gonna see each other next week. And on Wednesday, there's of course also a stream. But the next stream I'm doing is on Monday. My name is Chris, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Goodbye.